Hello, and welcome to Barry's Economics, a poor man's Gary's Economics. In this video today, I'm going to be sharing a bit of stand-up from another stand-up comedian that I think highlights an interesting point, and I'm going to extrapolate from that a bit, talk around it. So this is a bit of stand-up comedy from a comedian, a great comedian called Nish Kumar, and I'll talk about it afterwards, but here's the clip.
I was growing up, the board game I played most often, I can't believe we allow children to play this game. I'm talking, of course, about Monopoly. I cannot believe Monopoly is a game. First of all, it's called Monopoly. Now, that is a financial crime. We have governmental bodies designed to prevent. There's no games named after other financial crimes. There's no embezzlement ball or, hey kids, build your own Lego Ponzi scheme. People are worried about Grand Theft Auto. Monopoly reinforces the idea that a right-wing way of running your economy is the right way to do so. Because all the public works, the electric company, the train station, you can just buy them. And then the more of them you own, the more money you make. What happens if you go to jail? Nothing, as long as you can afford to bribe your way out.
I mean, obviously I like it because that is what life feels like. And because Monopoly is, it's one of those games that always ends in fights, because it just becomes, once you get an advantage, the turn of the screw, it's a depressing game. It starts off fun, but then becomes, as people consolidate their wealth, literally monopolize, it becomes bleak, doesn't it? And what's interesting is they did a study about the game Monopoly and about how when you've got an advantage, you don't always see it. I really like this study. It's by a guy called Paul Piff. And the Monopoly study, they took different players and they gave one player an advantage. They gave one player two die to roll. They gave them extra money and advantage when buying properties. And what's interesting, at the end of that game, when the game was played, and obviously that player won by a considerable margin and at speed. When the people without the advantage were spoken to, they were like, well, obviously, the other player had this advantage, so, whatever we did, we didn't really have that much chance of winning, however good our luck was. But when they talked to the person who had the advantage, that person often attributed their winning to their strategy as much as to any luck. Well, I did have this advantage, but also I made this choice here, and then I bought these houses on this particular thing, and then somebody else landed on it. Because what the brain does is motivated reasoning. We like to think that our decisions have an informed and positive effect on our lives. I think that's such a good example of why society is the way it is, because the people with all the advantage are basically rationalizing the reasons why they're winning. It's just like if you look at these podcasts that are all about entrepreneurs just kind of going, yeah, you just got to work harder, you got to hustle, you got to, well, that did work for you, mate. That absolutely worked for you. But that's motivated reasoning, right? So, and I've seen that up close. So as a comedian that from a working class background in Dorset, I got into debt from putting on Edinburgh shows, from trying to have a career in the arts. I'm one of 36 cousins. None of my cousins have been to university or even, work in the arts. I don't know why I decided to do it, but it was a lot of running into a brick wall. But in terms of looking at motivated reasoning for thinking that they made it, I know a lot of successful people that had a lot of safety net. They had people that, they had parents with a house in London, so it meant that they could earn money and keep it and not have to pay it onto rent. I know people that had parents that subsidised their first few Edinburgh shows and paid for them up there because they wanted their kid to do well. And I'm not saying those people didn't work hard, but that's a totally different situation to the people that I do know, myself included, who had to have two jobs up in Edinburgh doing the festival, or two jobs while they're in London trying to become a comedian or wherever they are, as well as be creative. And those are two hugely different situations. But if you ask anybody that's a comedian or a performer or in the arts that have had the advantage, they will backcomb it. They will say, well, I've worked very hard and these are the decisions that I made in order to for my career to go well. And they're right to a degree, But there's a massive advantage, and it's baked in, which is why government, and there should be some institutional intervention to ensure that wealth is redistributed. Because the wealthy are never going to ask for that, and they're going to find all the reasons why that isn't a good idea. And fortunately for them, they also own all the storytelling tools, such as the newspapers, social media algorithms. So all the stories that are told is everybody going, well, we can't change the system, and wealthy people deserve it, and if you just work hard, it's a fair system. It's like, well, who's telling us that? The rich people who are motivated to believe that that is the way of things. So yeah, I like the joke and I like the perspective, but also we have to find a way to change that story.